You know how they say that life is less stressful once you've graduated college? With me, it was more. Why? A few years ago, my best friend, Brent, began working with some ideas involving cutting-edge digital platforms for AI technology assisting with 3D modeling motion graphics. It had the potential to revolutionize video game graphics and movie special effects, and even give a new layer of realism to AI avatars. During college, I had been a software tester for the original protocols, and that had evolved into a programming job. Long, complicated story made brutally short, I'm one of 20 people in the world who are familiar with the new tech, but it comes with a price. I work constantly, travel constantly, work late every night, and work every weekend. I am in such demand that I can't think straight. Good thing I'm gay. Bad dad joke, I know. I'm Jasper, and a millionaire several times over, and I'm only 24. I have both a master's and bachelor's in computer science, and my stock and securities portfolio reads like science fiction. I literally have it all. Customized computerized smart home, already built. Tesla smart car with AI-assisted driving, I own 2. A smartphone that responds like a person, own it. Swimming pool, movie star boyfriend, a collection of 3 classic cars, a high-powered computer that would make anybody jealous. I have it all. My boyfriend is Carlos. Maybe you've seen his movies. He's made 4. We've been together for 3 years. I'm not only in love with him, but when the special ring arrives, I'm going to propose. It was 10 in the evening when I finally left work. Another late night in a string of late nights. I'm beginning to regret my life. I might be a millionaire. I might have everything. I might have an incredible boyfriend, but there isn't much of me left. What's the quote from that old Tolkien movie, Fellowship of the Ring? Too little butter scraped over too much bread. That's me. I stopped off at a store and picked up a dozen roses so I could tell Carlos that I'm sorry for being late. Again. Life changes in an instant. So does love. You've heard of falling in love at first sight? Well, the reverse is also true, as I found out. I drive a Tesla. It's quiet. My boyfriend and his best friend, Howie, never heard me coming. I stood at the front door of my place, holding the roses and wondering how I should best apologize. Something simple and direct, or romantic and drawn out? Maybe the classic kiss and bedroom scene? I never got the chance. Loud laughter came from my home. Carlos and Howie had a couple of windows open to get the evening breeze, but Carlos and his friend were loud enough that I think I could have heard them even if the windows were closed. They must have been drinking and not expecting me home. What do you mean you're still in love with your ex? Howie said. Wasn't his name Jaime, and he acted in that fantasy movie? Something warned me that I wouldn't like what I was going to hear. In an instant, I had my phone out and started recording. Jaime wasn't the lead, but he looked nasty hot in that loincloth, Carlos responded with a long burp. You gotta promise me you won't say anything. But sure, Jasper has money, but that's all he has going for him. Average look, average body, average in bed. Don't get me started about his stupid name. Who names their kid Jasper anyway? Think of him as the Honda Accord of lovers. No frills, nothing fancy, and he is pretty average down under if you know what I mean. Think small zucchini. There is nothing about Jasper to brag about. I don't love anything about him. You're only with him for the money? Howie asked. I'm here to spend his money, all his money, and nothing but his money, Carlos boasted, laughing. And your ex? Howie asked. Let me tell you, Carlos said. Jasper wins on the finances, but he loses in everything important. Jaime has the looks of a model, the tanned and toned body of a weightlifting surfer, and his under-the-sheets performance is breathtaking. He did something different every single time we did the nasty. He is a Porsche packing a telephone pole. Jasper can't compare on any level. My self-esteem became non-existent. The love I had for this man died instantly. I saved the video, trying to deal with my humiliation. I took a deep breath and stared at my phone, figuring out what to do. In a second, I had planned my revenge. Angry, ashamed, humiliated, depressed, it took only minutes to set up a group text to all my friends, my family, his friends, his family. Don't ask me how, but I even had Jaime's number. The last entries for the group text were to Carlos and Howie. I hoped they'd get the text a little later than everybody else. The text said, "We're breaking up. See attached video for reason. Make sure you max out the volume. Carlos, tell Jaime I said hi, and he can have you back." After attaching the video, I hit send. My revenge was done. Call me the petty, jilted ex-lover. Time for some more satisfaction. I unlocked the door, went into my house for the last time. When Carlos and Howie saw me, they paused, looking a little confused. I guess I looked like I had won an MMA wrestling bout and was still looking for someone to fight. Carlos quickly recovered, gave me a smile as he saw the roses in my arms and said, "Jasper, welcome home. I hope you don't mind me inviting Howie over." It surprised me about how calm I was. It was almost like I was watching myself. I nodded and dropped the roses onto the marble tile floor and stomped them flat. "What the hell?" Howie yelled. Then I wasn't calm anymore. The heat of my tears stained my cheeks. I couldn't say anything. "What's wrong?" Carlos asked, playing all innocent, but a doubt flickered in his eyes. A group text with a video can take a minute or two before it arrives at its destination. I don't know why I did this, but I counted backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I wish I could say I planned this, but it just happened just right. When I said 1, both their phones beeped with an incoming text. "You were both so loud you didn't even hear me pull into the driveway," I said. "Carlos, pack your stuff. This average Honda Accord and his zucchini want you gone in 15 minutes. Go back to your damn Porsche telephone pole. Oh, that's right. He dumped you." Carlos went as blank as a white piece of paper. "You heard us?" Howie said. "My mom in Vegas could have heard you, and she lives 500 miles away," I said. It was a joke," Carlos said. "You know I would never say anything like that about you. You misunderstood it." "What's this?" Howie asked, staring at his phone. Howie played the recording I had sent, and both men blushed. I simply said, "Somehow, I don't think I misunderstood anything. Let me tell you what I'm going to do. In 15 minutes, I'm throwing your damn stuff out the door. The Honda Accord you call your bank is dumping you. Stay with Howie from now on because nobody else wants you." "Baby, I love you," Carlos said. I snickered and said, "Not according to what I heard. You've got 14 minutes now." Carlos' phone chimed with an incoming text. "Why is Mom texting me?" I gave him as mean a look as I could and said, "You're not the only people I sent the recording to." He read his mom's text, and then he got another text, and another, and that was when Carlos realized how many people I had sent the recording to. I went into the bedroom we once shared, grabbed some of his clothes, and marched to the front door and threw them out. I turned and calmly said, 13 minutes. Carlos started screaming. I must have had a mini breakdown right after that night. Nothing about my life made sense. Work seemed pointless, relationships seemed pointless, love seemed pointless, family seemed pointless. Everything I had worked for seemed pointless. I didn't care about anything. I put my house on the market, sold my cars, sold almost everything I owned. I quit my job, packed up what I needed, and left, never looking back. I needed a change of everything. I had clients I needed to see, but I didn't care anymore. I went back home, to Nevada, to Vegas. Call me gun-shy, but I haven't dated, haven't had a boyfriend, or been intimate with anyone since Carlos. It just didn't seem worth it. A year later, I found myself living in a small town in Nevada, Dead Man's Butte, an hour north of Las Vegas. I bought a very small, one-bedroom apartment in the Elmwood Apartments, doing remote work for some of my clients. I never worked more than 6 hours a day, never worked on weekends, and I bought a car, a brand new red Ford Mustang with black racing stripes. My neighbors only knew that me and my boyfriend had a bad breakup. The tabloids had heard about the breakup, even got their hands on the recording. I accidentally got more revenge. Carlos became this year's bad boy of Hollywood, and the studios passed him by. He was contracted for a minor role in a television series, but he also became known as the gold digger who betrayed the men he dated. Other than one-night stands, he couldn't get any serious guys to stick around. If any of the tabloids mentioned me, it was as a footnote about the millionaire who dropped off the earth. "You can't keep moping around forever," my boss and best friend, Brent, said. He still worked in Silicon Valley, living with his wife and 2 kids. We spoke almost every day, and I was a longtime friend of both him and his family. "Maybe someday I will fall in love again," I replied. "But unless he walks up to my house and knocks on my door and invites me over, I'm done dating for the decade." Brent chuckled and said, "Love has a way of turning everything upside down." "I don't believe you," I said, and ended the call. A week later, I'd gone with some friends I'd met to the local Butte Steakhouse for a night of line dancing and big steaks and their homemade beer, the Butte Master Ale. I'd had too much to drink, and when I got home, I dumped my clothes on the floor, crawled beneath the sheets, and passed out. My last thought as I drifted into hangover oblivion, I didn't even want to think about relationships. Knock, knock. Saturday morning. Who would pound on my door at this ungodly hour? Knock, knock. A desperate, heavy knock that forced me conscious. "Just a damn minute," I mumbled. Whoever pounded on my door did not hear me, because a second later came, "Knock, knock." Irritated, hungover, the beginnings of a massive headache, I checked the time on the stove. 8 in the morning? Knock, knock. Would they stop already? Maybe it was my imagination, but the desperation in the knock had faded a little, as if they were giving up. That made me a little sad, and I couldn't tell you why. I opened the front door. The man at the door looked at my face, then his eyes quickly darted downward before he forced his eyes to connect with mine. Crap. I wore only my old boxers. The man at the door broke my heart. Sandy hair, blue eyes, shorter than me, and cute. He wore glasses, but what got me was the expression in his eyes. Fear, panic, desperation. I'd lay odds he hadn't slept in at least a day, maybe more. His hair was a little messed up, and small tear tracks stained the edges around his eyes, and his clothes were rumpled as if he'd worn them too long. Did he know his t-shirt was inside out? In the parking lot behind him was a U-Haul truck, double parked in back of my Mustang. He tried to give me a friendly smile, but it came across as if he were about to cry. What the hell is going on? "Hi," I muttered. "I'm David," he said, his voice speaking fast and breaking with panic. I'm a year away from my degree in interior design. I'm moving in next door, but your car, your Mustang, it's too big. I'll never fit it in. The moving truck, I can't park around it. Can you move it? Your car?" An old woman had lived next door, but she passed away before I moved in. Had they sold the place? David continued, but he spoke so fast that I only caught a few phrases. He had left a passed-out ex, had only hours to move, was very afraid of the man, and promised to make me dinner if I could move my car. "I'm Jasper. Give me 5, I mumbled, suddenly awake and suddenly very confused. A couple of Tylenol, a pair of Levi's, yesterday's shirt, some old sandals, and I grabbed a quick bite of leftover something as I stuffed my keys and wallet in my pocket. I smiled. David was cute, with that boy next door kind of vibe. Somebody I could fall for, if I hadn't been betrayed. I took a deep breath to clear the emotions and bring myself to the present. What had happened to David to freak him out so bad? I took one last look at the clock and remembered what day it was. Damn, it's Saturday. I swore that I would never work another Saturday in my life, but Brent had somehow talked me into this. It was $1 million account after all. Brent and I and one of our clients had a video conference in an hour. So much for promises. Time for my good deed for the day and help David a little. It only took a minute to move my Mustang, but David was in trouble with the truck. I took the keys from him and parked it for the poor guy. David looked more frazzled than ever. I went back into my apartment to make some coffee and get ready for the video call. As we were starting the call, and before our client checked in, I told Brent, "You owe me, and never again." Brent shrugged. "Some of us have a mortgage." That night, when I got back from errands, David looked even more exhausted, but he offered me a quiet smile and said, "Dinner will be ready in 30 minutes. Dinner was good. David knew how to grill like a pro, and I learned his story. I let him talk about it, letting the poor guy vent. His ex, Brandon, had an alcohol problem, but didn't believe he had a problem. Something about Brandon's life frustrated the man, and when he was drunk, he took his anger out on anything around, mainly his boyfriend. David had made a video of his ex-boyfriend's drunken rage and showed it to me. I'd never heard so much swearing in my life. Then Brandon started to get violent and broke some stuff. It gave me a lot to think about, especially about Carlos. I never wanted to see him again, but at least he didn't get violent. It was a few days later when I saw David sitting in the shade beside his door, laptop on his lap. He was a lot calmer today, and, in his calmness, a lot cuter too. Something about the way he concentrated, quietly focusing on his laptop, intrigued me. It had been months since I'd let myself be interested in anyone. No, make that a year. And the first stirrings of something drifted inside me. I squashed them. David was the complete opposite of Carlos, and Carlos had ruined romance for me. After what he had done, who did I dare trust? Who did I dare love? Romance was not in the cards for me. After the problems with Brandon, maybe David had checked out of the romance department too. He was too cute to give up on love, and too smart. Just the way I like my men. Smart and sexy. I wasn't ready to fall in love again, and I bet David wasn't either. However, I bet David could use a friend. An innocent idea popped into my brain. Quickly, I ordered a pizza, paying online with delivery requested at his address, along with Cokes and breadsticks. Then I grabbed my laptop, a chair, and walked over to David's place. "I'm getting tired of working alone," I said. "Do you mind if I work with you? What are you doing?" David looked up, adjusting his glasses, and said, 2,000-word essay about the highlights from Chapter 12 from my textbook, Finding the Basics for Living Beautifully. My professor from my latest interior decorating class wrote the text, and she let me convert the class to remote because of my relationship troubles. What are you working on? Character movement demo for a video game scheduled for release in 2 years. It doesn't have a name yet, or if it does, they haven't told me, I said. We've developed new modeling AI-assisted software for increased realism, and this is one of the first video games using the technology to its fullest. Wow, he said. Cutting-edge stuff? You could say that, I said. I'm one of the developers, and it's paid pretty well. You're a big-time tech guru. Why are you out here in the middle of nowhere? David asked. Just like you, I answered. Relationship trouble. Want to see? For the next few minutes, I showed him my video and explained my story. David slowly shook his head, sighed, and frowned. What? I asked. Rich guys have the same problems the rest of us do, he said. I leaned forward, staring at my laptop's monitor, but not seeing it. Instead, I saw Carlos's face the last I had seen him, when he had realized that I knew he faked his love so I would buy him silly little trinkets. The amount of bitterness that suddenly flooded my heart brought tears to my eyes. Even after all this time, it still hurt. The bitterness and anger that gushed out was stronger than I expected, and I said, If you mean that people only like you for your money, you're right. I don't have friends, only people who see me as their personal ATM. Jasper, buy me a new car. Jasper, I need new clothes. Jasper, don't be selfish. Share the love. And the money. They don't understand or care how much work it got to get here or what I had to give up. They only want free gifts. The outburst exhausted me, and I shut up. My strong emotions must have shocked David. His eyes widened, and I expected him to back away. He didn't. He placed a hand on mine, gripping it hard. We sat like that until the pizza and drinks arrived, and then we ate while we worked. Did you love Carlos? David asked. I wanted to spend forever with him, I said. After minutes of silence, David gave me a small smile and finally said, Let's make a rule, so you know I'm not leeching off of you. And I know that I'm not some rich man's boy toy. From now on, we each pay our own way. That way, you know I'm not taking advantage of your money, and I don't think you're lusting after my sexy glutes. The way he said that last bit was meant as a bit of humor, but for a second, I saw the pain behind those words. There was no humor. Thanks to Brandon, David didn't believe he was beautiful or worthwhile or sexy. Had Brandon's angry, alcoholistic rants destroyed something fragile and precious? I wanted to wrap David with a hug and whisper to him that he was beautiful and special, but before I could say anything, David's mask slipped back into place. As much as Carlos's betrayal had hurt me, it was nothing compared to what Brandon's anger had done. Suddenly, my whole attitude changed. All I wanted to do was make David realize how beautiful he was, inside and outside. How could I do that? As we finished the pizza and the Cokes, I asked, Next break, I'm in the mood for frozen yogurt. It's only a 10-minute walk. Care to join me? David gave me a casual shrug. For a moment, he hesitated. I gave him a simple smile and said, It's not a date because neither one of us are ready for that. We pay our own way. Two friends getting to know each other. He said, Okay. It was a fun, casual event, and it was the first of our casual events. Every time I saw him, I tried to be friendly and warm. We started going on walks together and lightly flirting, and about 2 weeks in, I took him to Railroad Junction Park one evening. We walked along the track that circled the park, eventually landing in one of their westward benches and watching the sunset. A beautiful hue of oranges and golds. The sky looked like it could be on fire. David seemed to relax, and he began talking about his dreams, his goals, the pain of living with Brandon. The moment seemed special, and I placed my arm about his shoulders and drew him in close. The moment became intimate, but not in a sexual way. We talked, watching the indescribable beauty of the evening. Two friends becoming closer. I wanted to kiss him, hold him, take him into my arms, and show him how beautiful he was. But I had a feeling that would scare him away. He was like a fluttering bird near a puddle of water, keeping watch for an enemy before he dared take a sip. This was not a man who I would rush. A tender, gentle feeling filled my heart. Our love would naturally grow. What was happening to me? I hadn't felt this way with Carlos, and I loved Carlos, but that wasn't real. This was a different kind of feeling. Was I falling in love with David? Somehow, David had relaxed into my arm, cuddling into me. Afraid to ruin this special moment, I didn't say anything for many long minutes. He didn't say anything either. We walked back home and to his porch, and he held my hand. His fingers were dry and sensitive and delicate. His hand strong, his grip firm, as if he didn't want to let me go. Our eyes connected. The emotion between us was vibrant. I simply said, "Meet you for lunch tomorrow?" He took a breath, his gaze flickering past me. Some battle was going on in his heart. And knowing what I did about his last relationship, I could guess what it was. Did he dare trust someone again? Did I dare trust someone? His eyes brightened. He'd come to a decision, and with the small smile he gave me, I think I could guess what that decision was. "I'll get the barbecue ready," he said, "and it's my treat. Noon okay?" I nodded. We met for lunch, and sometimes dinner, and usually every Saturday. We walked along the park, often enjoying frozen yogurt and the sunset and listening and being with each other. Early one Saturday, there was a knock-knock. He knocked on my door. I crawled out of bed and answered. Why do I always answer my door in my boxers? David had made some kind of specialty pumpkin bread that was more of a cake with a delicious frosting, and he shyly explained about the award he won. Why did he never realize how special he was? I realized then that I had fallen in love. David looked at me, something timid about his smile. A second later, he took a dollop of frosting and smeared a small dab on my nose. A little embarrassed, he gently kissed it off. Maybe he was ready for us to be a little bit more than friends. I took some of the frosting and lightly smeared it on his lips. David's eyes widened. Before he could say anything, I kissed him. He kissed back, a timid, almost scared kiss that evolved into passion, long denied, for both of us. "Let me get dressed," I whispered. "I'll be over in a minute to help eat." David stepped close enough so his index finger could slowly draw a line down the center of my chest. His light touch excited me. His finger tickled as it crossed my stomach. When he got to my boxers, he kind of hooked his finger in them. His smile was exquisite, and he said, "You know, I prefer a Honda Accord over a Porsche." "Really?" I asked, not quite understanding where this was going. "A Porsche is supposed to be the sexiest car in the world." "Not to me," he said, a hint of blush forming on his face. "They're horribly expensive, and expensive to maintain. They require specialized parts and specialized mechanics. Once you own one, it's a money pit. Unless you want to show it off or something, it stays in the garage. You can't take it to get groceries, or go to the steakhouse, or a quick run down the street. It's very impractical. Besides, it's the driver that makes it sexy. I grinned, suddenly understanding David's metaphor, and I said, "So, in other words, you're saying Carlos was a high-maintenance leech and he used me to make himself look good?" "I agree with you on that one. What's so special about the Honda Accord?" "Beside it being affordable," David said, "it's low maintenance and easy to keep running. That car is a hard-working, practical car that looks nice and goes the distance. It will stand by you no matter where you go or what you do." I grew serious. What was David trying to say? Was he talking about me? Is that how he saw me? Hardworking, practical, good-looking, and willing to go the distance? My turn to blush. "You can take it grocery shopping," David continued, "or to the steakhouse, or the park, or anywhere. It's good for short trips, say down to Vegas, or long trips, say the Grand Canyon. It's a car that you can use once a day, or many times a day, or whenever the mood hits you. It's a car you can depend on, someone you can trust. With the right driver, it can last a lifetime." I grinned. Did David just say he trusted me? In his own way, was he saying he wanted a relationship with me? Was I being propositioned? "Let me ask you something," David asked. His blush looked like a sunburn. "Have you ever been in the back seat of a Porsche? Most models don't have them, and the one I've been in wasn't roomy enough for 2 grown men." You don't mean you've done it? In a Porsche back seat?" I asked. "Did Brandon own one?" David nodded and blushed until his face was as red as my car. He looked at the ground when he said, "Kept bumping my head." I chuckled. Best drop this conversation. And I said, "Give me a few minutes and I'll be right over." As I was putting on my Levi's, smiling, my phone rang. It was my boss and best friend, Brent. "I know it's Saturday," Brent said, "but this is really important. Our client needs your help right now, and he's willing to pay for weekend overtime." Why was this happening now? I promised myself to never work on a Saturday again, but now? The money was tempting. The client depended on us. How could I let him down? But the subtle taste of frosting was on my lips, as was the remembered warmth of David's kiss. I closed my eyes and pictured David's beautiful smile and chuckled at his wisdom about, cars. "Jasper," Brent said, "I don't see your system logged in. Hurry, we have a lot to do." I looked out the window and saw David quickly setting plates on a patio table, his bread cake pumpkin thing in the middle of the table. "Brent," I started to say, and stopped. What do I say? What exactly was I feeling? I remembered Carlos and the way he used me. I remembered the pain he had caused me. I lost trust in myself, in others, in life. I had worked so much that I never realized that the love we shared wasn't love. Carlos's betrayal had broken me, and I had given up everything. Until David knocked on my door. Maybe David was life's way of giving me a second chance, of healing me. I would not disappoint him. I knew what I had to say to Brent. "Not this time, Brent. Some things are more important. His name is David, and I love him, and we're going to share chocolate chunk pumpkin bread. Then I'm going to kiss every single inch of him until he says stop, and if he doesn't say stop, I'm not answering my phone for the rest of the day." Brent paused and went quiet. "David is more important than a job," I said. Brent gave a slight chuckle and said, "Understood. I'll tell our client you're available Monday morning at 9. 9 will be fine," I said. As I hung up, I looked out the window at David and his pumpkin bread cake thing. It was my job to teach him how sexy he was, and how beautiful and how much fun we can have cuddling together. For the first time in a long, long time, I was happy. I pulled my shirt on and went outside with only one goal in mind. Could I smear a little more frosting on David's lips? Maybe we could answer one of life's important questions. Which car has a better back seat? Brandon's Porsche or my Mustang? The end. I'm Gio, and thank you, friends, for joining me. If you want to hear David's side of things, see the story, A Romantic Celebration. The link is at the end of the video. If you would like more stories about men falling in love, subscribe to my channel. The link is also at the end of the video. I hope to see all of you next Wednesday with another video. Peace.